Hi, everybody. It is Sarah. Welcome to Unmuzzled, a podcast, all things animals, all the time. So happy to have you here. I know I've pre-recorded a few podcasts since this happened, so some of the ones that you're seeing, I did not know about this at that time, but I did some research to see how legit this was. And I mean, this is awesome. When I looked at this, I was around number 22 of 100. That number fluctuates, I think, with people, tuning in. And also, I get a lot of views actually on first runs, which are video based and on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, on all of those. So this is really only counting the audio streams and downloads. So I will take it. It does seem legit. I appreciate that they tagged me on Twitter. I still call it Twitter, FX, whatever. So this is quite an honor. And I know we have a lot of listeners, but I like that other people recognize that it is making a difference in some way, or that people are noticing that we're doing cool work here. And I say we are because I have the most amazing guests all the time, including Imelda, who's about to come on. And we're going to talk about an amazing small business that she created, having a tripod dog, and just all of the wonderful things she has coming up. She's a joy. She's become a friend of mine since our days at Animal Control. Before we get there, sponsors, you're up. Thank you so much to our presenting sponsors. Yucca Fence is a family-owned, trusted provider of high-quality fencing solutions with over 57 years of experience. They take pride in protecting what you love the most and give back to rescues, shelters, and humane societies through their partnerships. They give you a free, no-obligation estimate and use the highest quality materials. For transparency and peace of mind, visit Yucca Fence for all your fencing needs. Canine Cruise is the place to take your pet. They offer dog and cat boarding, dog daycare, pet retail, and mindful day school. Tons of indoor space with a huge yard. Canine Cruise is your one-stop shop for professional pet care in Chicago. Kiki's Corner Natural Pet Foods in downtown Winfield, just a block south of CDH Hospital on the railroad tracks. Kiki's has all your food and health aid needs for dogs and cats. Kiki's Corner for a healthy, happy pet. Sniffing out a new vet? Bond Vet is a new breed of vet care that offers everything from primary care to walk-in urgent care visits. And right now, they've got a special treat for our listeners. You can use code UNMUZZLED to get $50 off your pet's first visit by booking at bondvet.com. That's code UNMUZZLED at BONDVET.com for $50 off. Thank you, sponsors. I can't do this without you. It means so much to me to have that support, even the monthly fees to get the podcast done and out into the world. I really, really appreciate it. Without further ado, oh yes, we have Imelda and a dog. So we already know that these ratings are going to fly, at least if you're watching on video. Now, if you're listening on audio, you need to go to the video portion on YouTube and check it out. Imelda, who is this precious beast that you have?
This is Jerry. Jerry's my foster dog, and he's also a tripod. I'm fostering him through Friends of Chicago Animal Care and Control. So he's going to be up for adoption soon.
I mean, so Imelda has another tripod.
Who's
named Miller. So yeah, they're quite the pair. Hold on, I think I have a picture. Yeah, I have a picture of them together. Do I have one? Because which of Jerry's legs is missing?
It's the back one, so it's hard to get unless I have like a side picture of him.
Yeah, I mean, he is amazing. And we are going to talk about tripods because Miller actually has a prosthetic that you have been working on with him that you got through Wild Hearts, who is another amazing organization that's been on this podcast before. So we're going to get to all of that. But before we started, I just wanted to kind of go back to how Imelda and I know each other. And that's from my animal care and control days, which if you listen to this podcast, you hear me talking about it all the time. It's a very, very tough place to volunteer. She was an animal control officer there, which is even harder if you think about Market 3 in Chicago, how many stray animals, there are injured animals, there are calls for abandoned animals. And we're not going to talk too much about it because there's a lot of things going on always in the realm of Chicago animal care and control. But I just wanted to thank you because oftentimes you would see an animal that it was like a Sarah dog or that you knew that I had a rescue contact for, and you would say to me, Sarah, check out this dog, and cage E30, 300, whatever, however they were numbered.
Yeah.
But I know that I mean, same with me, like it shapes you, like having a job there or a volunteer work there, it really shapes who you become as a human. I think it says a lot about somebody that has, worked there for so many years or volunteered there for so many years. But how much of your, the work that you did there is ingrained still in like what you do today?
Oh my gosh. I mean, so I worked there for, I worked there for 8 years, and so it literally just became like part of who I was. So even like circles of friends like you, it all became like part of my life, and just it shapes your understanding of the world. And I think I always tell people like it's helped me become a more well-rounded person because you're able to see people living in different incomes, different situations, just trying to make the best out of what they can for living for themselves and also for caring for their animals. So it really helps you, the animal community, like it's amazing, but there can be a lot of, like judgment with it without knowing like the backstories of some of these animals that came into animal control. So, being able to like see what these people went through and how they were trying to care for their animals and really doing the best that they could. And sometimes like these people took in animals that were abused. So they weren't necessarily like financially equipped, but they were still trying to help out an animal that was roaming the street or that other people were abusing. And sometimes they ended up at animal control and, they got judged by it, but we never knew, like people never know the reason behind it. We just say like, oh my gosh, how can you like leave an animal at animal control? But sometimes their circumstances are not the same as ours and they have no choice. And sometimes it's the best thing that they can do for their dog. So it definitely allowed me to be more like understanding of everybody's situation, rather than just like assume the worst of people just because their pets were at animal control.
It's so true. And I think, you being Spanish speaking, number one, is so helpful because we often would see at CRISP, which is a rescue intervention support program, that we would sit at animal control and try to help owners so they wouldn't have to surrender their dog. But there is a language barrier there. And there is also disdain. And I hate to say that, but when they see 3 white girls trying to help save a Chihuahua or whatever kind of dog, a pitty, and you can't talk to them the way that you want to convey that you're trying to help, it can frustrate people, and not just the owner, but us as well. And it took me, I sometimes will see my old Facebook updates and I'd be like mad at owner surrenders because I'd be coming in to volunteer to walk dogs. This is before I had anything to do with rescue. I would come in and walk dogs and I'd be upset that there was a line of owner surrenders. And I was young and dumb. And until you switch your mindset to say, that person could be going through hell right now. They could be living in their car and not be able to afford dog food or bedding or anything and can barely take care of themselves. And they have this dog. Until you switch that mindset, you're not helping the problem. I mean, you really aren't. And it took a long time, I think. And, Heather Owen is really good at kind of switching people to that, and other people in rescue. But until you understand and can empathize and sympathize with people, it is not fair to simply sit there as a white, well-off woman with a good job coming in to walk dogs, you know, on free time, to sit there and judge people that are, you know, a lot of times going through hell. And I will say, you know, when we started that program, it was more to try to help the dogs being surrendered, but it evolved into, we will pay for this medical bill, or, you know, I took a lot of dogs to be euthanized because the owner didn't want to be with the dog. So instead of the animal being euthanized at CACC, where they didn't want to be, I would take the dog out of there and, you know, give them a last meal type thing. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but basically what you said.
Dive into it with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very hot button topic. But I think we have all evolved enough now and grown up enough to realize that helping people is better than pointing a finger.
Yeah. And honestly, I think there was even a dog that you helped out that had cancer. And the call I was responding to was because they wanted to surrender it because it was sick. And they were Spanish speaking. And I was able to communicate with them that there was resources, you know, and I just remember it was like it had a tumor on its mouth. And I remember you sending, I know where they live and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
and so she wanted to surrender their dog. And I was like, if I hadn't been able to communicate with them, you know, that there was like resources that were willing to help them, you know, like she would have surrendered a dog and not have them. And I also think that there's like people sometimes like are more willing to accept help from peers than from somebody that they feel superior, like are superior to them. So
Yeah.
like, especially in the like Latino community, there's a lot of pride, you know, so people don't want to admit that they need help, you know, like myself included with, oh my God, I'm not gonna cry with Bella, you know. There's like that feeling of pride of like, I can do it like myself. So there was like a lot of that, like in animal control, of like people not wanting to accept help from organizations that, you know, they feared would either come after them, you know, because a lot of people have fear of like the system, you know, especially coming, like for me, I was in a city agency, like they thought that there was going to be some like retribution if I provided like some assistance, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So them accepting help from like people that they saw as equals, and sometimes, you know, probably with Crisp and all, like walking in and seeing, you know, a panel of like white women, they're probably like, oh my God, these people are just gonna judge me and not be so like receptive to receiving like the help that was needed. But then some people like are willing to accept help from, you know, whoever's able and willing to help. So I think it like race does, like culture and like the upbringing of pride and all of that does play a factor into like, you know, whether or not you're going to accept people and from who you're going to accept help. I mean, from who you're going to accept help from.
Yeah, that's so well said. And I do think too, like there were times when the person, no matter, you know, it doesn't really matter who it
Yeah.
is, but like they would hug me and they would cry and I would cry because I would
Yeah.
be like, oh my God, like we were able to change this person's life. And it can be something as simple as food, you know, like dog food or dog treats, or like, and just knowing that you have that support system. And it is awkward a little bit to be sitting in the middle of animal control with everybody sobbing, but
Yeah.
the feeling of like being able to help somebody, I think is it's one of like the best highs in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why like I now help people that have animals with cancer. So yeah, anyway, we kind of went off on a tangent, but like I think like hearing that from you and like me, you have to sometimes, and it takes growing up. I hate to say that I'm about to turn 50, but like until you're not like a snotty
Yeah.
know-it-all, you realize like that's not cool, you know, to be
Yeah.
judging and pointing fingers, even though, you know, they are contributing to the much bigger shelter problem. There's other underlying issues that
Yeah.
are than that what is happening at animal control. And I guess for the other thing I wanted to ask you, because I think, right now with the shelter crisis,
Mhm.
we see a lot of people protecting animal care and control. And again, like what I just said, is this is all an underlying problem of, resources, not having enough funds. If you look at what the hell is happening in America right now,
Yeah.
how are people going to afford anything, let alone having a pet? But do you have anything to say kind of about, and I know, we all know about the amazing people that work in animal care and control, a lot of them I'm still friends with,
Yeah.
about the people that are working there, not, they don't want to do you think it's fun to euthanize an animal? Absolutely not. But they have to take in every single animal. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you want to speak to that, just about what it's like to be an employee there and to get, give these people a break that are literally doing their jobs and trying the best they can with what is given to them.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely suffered from like a lot of compassion fatigue, and it's so hard when you're there's so many good people there that like truly truly love animals, and like you're not going in on this job like because you want to make money or anything. Like they get paid so little. And it's hard when you're like doing the best that you can to help these animals, and then there's people telling you that you're like an animal hater. um it's like telling me like my whole life has been surrounded about animals, and like protecting like an animal's welfare, and like raising awareness on like pit bulls, and now tripods. And I'm like doing all of this work, and then somebody that doesn't know me but only sees like a uniform to then tell me that like I hate animals, and that like I'm an animal killer, and that's all I want to do. And it's just like with every field there's always bad apples, and there's some people that are in an animal control facility, not necessarily CACC but like anywhere that maybe is there for it just to be a job. But if you look at the overwhelming like amount of people that are trying to make a difference and trying to be proactive in getting animals a home, like are those people that don't like animals, like instead of putting that much energy into like blaming animal control, like how about like promoting, using that energy to like promote the animals that are up for adoption. um like that would make such more of a difference. Like absolutely, like keep shelters like accountable for like their wrongdoings. And if you have an opinion of like what could work, the cities, like these shelters always like take like it's just like a ladder of getting like programs through. But like now they have the you could take a dog, like a dog day out program, like once, like 5 years ago maybe even, or like 10 years ago. I think they started it about when I left. So 10 years ago you would have like laughed at that idea of animal control ever having like an open mind to doing that. So like change is possible if people are willing to like work with them, um and like help them see why it would get better. So I think if people just relocate their energy to helping the problem versus, it's so easy to sit behind a keyboard and just like berate people. I mean, you've gotten it, I've gotten it, it's the easiest thing that people can do, so that's why they're gonna do it. But if you just change that and just like spread awareness about animal control and like rescuing animals, like you can just do like a chain of good with that, instead of like the evil snotty comment that's probably going to get deleted either way. So
Yeah, so well said. I mean, I think the people that create chaos with just, emergency
yeah,
24 hours, this dog had an adopter and they killed it. Like we all know that page. Like they are creating so much drama and stress for the people that don't need it, for the volunteers there, the staff, and then you have this influx of people just coming at the people that are trying to do the good work. It's so frustrating for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know if you're watching the video, you saw another dog in the frame with Imelda, Miller, who is a tripod. He is the most amazing, genuinely great dog. He spent, if you've seen the viral video of him at the marathon spot for Live Like Rue, he had a sign with Imelda. All the runners were stopping and giving him pets and kisses. But tell us the story of him and, you know, why he's a tripod, how you ended up with him.
Yeah, so it's funny, he like comes like when I first got him, I was getting him in training for a therapy dog, because whenever he feels that I'm like getting emotional, he like comes and like to, you know, he tries to get in front of me. So he came into animal control. I had just lost Bella. I think it had been a month since I lost her. And he was brought into animal control with like wires wrapped around his leg. They were embedded, and he had maggots all over, and he had like burn scars on his back. So he was in pretty beat up shape, but he was so like super, super friendly. Players for Pits ended up taking him from animal control. And he was, you know, they did the amputation. His leg just couldn't be saved. So he was in foster for a few months. I probably not even a few months, honestly. I think it was like a month later. And there was, hold on, my phone is blowing up. So I had messaged Stephanie, and I was like, hey, like, I see this dog, and he kind of resembled Bella, but like not completely. And I was just like, I see this dog. And like when I saw him, I was just like, oh my gosh, like that's my dog, you know? But then I was like, is it because he kind of looks like Bella, or is it, you know, like just him? But there was just something that I felt, I was like, I need to meet this dog. So they were like, take your time, you know, like we know you're still processing the loss. And so I met with his foster Amy. She brought him over just to meet. They were like, you know, just meet him and see what you think. And then of course, like once I met him, I was just like, oh my gosh, he's like the sweetest dog. And, you know, Bella was my heart dog. I had her since I was 18. So she was like the root of me going into animal welfare. She was a pit bull. I was like terrified of pit bulls beforehand. And she was from DuPage Animal Care and Control. And I started volunteering there. Kind of like a loop of everything about how like I started. So I started watching, I bought a dog from a pet store. That night that I bought that dog, I saw an Oprah Winfrey show about puppy mill dogs, because she was like this shit girl. And then I was like, oh my God, I just bought a puppy mill dog. So I was like freaking out. I was like, I have to like do something, because like I just did this like horrendous thing. So that I signed up to start volunteering at DuPage Animal Care and Control. So once I started volunteering there, they let me, like, they had never done it before. They had let me do weekend fosters. So I would start fostering dogs just on the weekends to get them out of the shelter. And then I met Bella, and I brought her home. And like I said, we were all like terrified of dogs. So I walk in with like this pit bull, and my parents are like terrified. And I'm just like, no, she's like the sweetest thing. So then from there, I started learning all of, you know, the bad that comes with, you know, like owning a pit bull, of like the judgment and the criticism that comes with it. So, you know, she kind of led me down this path of like advocacy for pit bulls. So, you know, I thought I was gonna like not have a dog for a while after her, because like I was just so heartbroken. But then, you know, after owning a pit bull, it's kind of hard to go to, I mean, you know, with Ruth, to have like a different dog. They're just like the most loving dogs. And, you know, so Miller went through all of that, and he is still, I think anybody that meets him, like, you can't meet him and just think he's like not the happiest dog like in the world. Like, you would never, if he didn't have like a missing leg and the scars, you would never know just everything, you know, that he has gone through. And he's like definitely taught me a lot more about like resilience and like able to like your ability to do anything, like if you want to. And he hi Bubba, he's like sitting on, he like came and sit on my lap. It's also like changed my perception of how, you know, I interacted with people with disabilities. And that was like one of the biggest things, you know, because like it changed my perception of, like, I always get people coming up to me and telling me like, oh my God, a poor dog, you know, and kind of like the pictures that you're showing now, like we go on hikes together. Like he goes hiking. He has like the best life. He has like such a group, like big group of people that like love and support him. And, you know, I'm just like, he's living like the best life that he can, you know, and like, not to say it's like without limitations. And I used to see people with disabilities like that, where I would be like, oh my gosh, like, I feel so bad, you know? And now I'm like, I'm like feeling bad for them, and they're probably like living life, you know? And I think instead of like being like, oh my gosh, I'm that's so sad, you know, of changing my perception to people, to be like, hell yeah, like you're doing, you know, like you're doing that. Or even like if I see somebody, like if you're seeing somebody like walking on one leg, you know, instead of being like, oh my gosh, that must be so difficult for them to be getting around with one leg, like changing that perception of like, that's so awesome that you're like, you know, like going after it and getting out there, you know, with just one leg, you know. So it's definitely like changed my perception of how I've viewed people with limitations. And, you know, he's been such like an advocate for the breed and for tripods. And it's like opened up a whole different community for me of like, you know, interacting with people that have the dogs with like disabilities, you know, and hearing their stories. And, you know, all of them come from like different walks of life, and of how like their dogs get there. So it's been, you know, he's opened up like so many more like channels of like owning a pet for me.
I love that. And so I was saving the prosthetic photo because this is a thing. Like, this is not, number one, it's not easy, obviously. Like, going from having three legs and then all of a sudden you have a fourth leg. But how did this work? How did this come about, and how has it been going?
Yeah, so I got him the prosthetic because we do a lot of hiking. And but he can only go about, and every dog is different. So he can personally only go about a mile. There's dogs that go like 8 miles without four legs. Rear tripods do handle, you know, the amputations a little bit better, so they can go longer distance, but it all depends on the dog and like their build. So he's only able to go for like a mile and a half without it. And hiking has been like super big for me and like my mental health. And I, you know, I wanted to bring him with because it like, I hated leaving him home on like the days that I wanted to go for longer hikes. So I was like, I, you know, started to do research, and then um, I saw that I tried to get him a prosthetic when I first adopted him. Um, but then that didn't work out. So then I found this company, and we actually just got the elbow for his prosthetic. So so the one that's on the picture, and for those that can't see, It's a harness that goes around his chest, and then there's it's a 3D printed kind of like uh, leg with kind of like a roller at the end to help him walk. But I just got the elbow so that when he lays down, instead of the leg kind of just going to the side, it bends forward with him. So there, you do need to have a lot of patience with it. Miller is such like, he adapts to anything. So thankfully, he took to it like really, really quickly. There's other dogs that can take up to a year to take to it. We're still working on him trusting to put weight on the leg. So as he gets more tired, he does rely on the leg more. But the company that I got it from, I think it's 3D Prosthetics. They give you like tutorials on, how to work with them to trust the leg. Um, so it's a lot of the owner too. It's not like you just plop it on the dog and like boom, you have like 4 legs now and you're good to go. You have to get them like accustomed to wearing the vest. You have to do exercises so that they put the weight bearing on the side of the prosthetic. And even because when they run leaning towards the side of the leg for like front prosthetic dogs or front amputees. They run towards the side of where they have the weight bearing leg. So then when he's doing that, the prosthetic's kind of just like floating in the air, not doing anything. So he's gotten a lot better, and we did our first hike in Starved Rock the beginning of the year. He still doesn't know how to do stairs with it. So if you know Starved Rock, there's a lot of stairs there. So I had to carry him up and down all of those stairs. It was, oh my God. We went out to dinner like later on in the afternoon with Roseanne. It was for her birthday. And I was like, guys, I'm just so tired. I don't understand why I'm so tired, because we only went on like a mile and a half. And they were like, maybe because you like lifted this 50-pound dog like up and down the stairs.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah. So yeah, now we're gonna be adjusting to him having the elbow, and he got his prosthetic. I want to say it was like October, November. So he still hasn't had it like for long enough that he's fully accustomed to it. And they say on average about a year it takes to like fully, like rely on it. And something to know about like prosthetics, they're not meant to be like in the home, like, or to be worn 24/7. He only wears it if we're going out on walks, on hikes. If we're like standing for long periods of time, then he'll wear it. But if we're just here hanging out at home, it's like meant to be like relaxing, and so he doesn't wear it here in the house. So if it's somebody like considering it, like take those things into consideration. If you're not living an active lifestyle where the dogs are like running around, like going on hikes or going miles on walks, or they're struggling to stand, always take your dog's like activity level into consideration of whether it is something that they would benefit from. For Miller's case, because we did the hiking, it's something that he's going to get like a use out of. So it's, I'm excited for this year. It's funny because everything started because of the prosthetic, and now like we've gone on one hike and like we haven't gone hiking as much. So next week I'm gonna try and take both him and Jerry out for the first hike. So Godspeed to me. Like, I don't know how it's gonna go.
I mean, the biggest thing is the weather, right? I mean, that's the problem here in the Midwest is you need some good weather to get hiking. Yeah. So it makes sense. I think too, for Live Like Rue patients, clients, they always are so worried about their animal getting an amputation. And I tell them, you will be shocked by how good they do. And if you can take the leg off and get rid of the cancer, that is so key And
Yeah.
every one of them who does it, they say, "Oh yeah," and probably not good, but the dog's jumping on the bed already, 3
Yeah.
days later. Like it is unbelievable how resilient they end up being. And especially when you get something like a cancer diagnosis or some kind of, where taking the leg off actually will help. Like it usually will work out okay. Now, I'm not saying that for everybody, but people are so nervous about it, and it usually ends up being, just fine.
Oh my gosh, no, they recover like incredibly quickly. I think Jerry recovered. He was like trying to run around. Jerry's, over your amp. And he recovered within 2 weeks. And I was like
Wow.
happy to keep him like calm. Miller, I think, was like pretty much by the time I met him, he was trying to run around like my whole backyard. So that was like within a month.
Yeah.
So they do, and like we've met dogs like Maya who, at an older age, had the amputation and still get around great. I think as long as you give them like the time and the patience to do their recovery, like they hi. Yeah.
He's like, "Mom, are you talking about me?"
Yeah. um, they recover so quickly, and if it's something that's gonna save their life, you're gonna be incredibly surprised at how much they don't miss,
Right.
miss.
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole reason that we were going to do this podcast was to talk about your incredible business, but we're 40 minutes in now. We've not talked about it yet. But I've had plenty of time to practice the name, and it's Tanim. Did I get that right? Okay, it's Tanim is how it's pronounced. And this has just become like an amazing business. You've partnered with Live Like Rue. You partner with other rescues as a give back, but
Yeah.
you've also done a lot of our events. And the incredible craftswomanship, I know it's craftsmanship, but we're talking about craftswomanship, that it goes into this Mexican inspired apparel, accessories, everything. It's just amazing. So how did this all come about?
Yeah, so this all started because of Miller. So it was when I was trying to raise money for his prosthetic. So I actually didn't know how to sew like before. I learned specifically, like, I'm part of like the tripod group, and it's called like Tripod Dogs on Facebook, and their community is like amazing. And I posted like this funny bandana that I had made for Miller that said, "Have you seen my leg?" And people were just like, "Oh my gosh, if you make this, like I'll buy it." So the place that I had ordered it from, Jerry's trying to eat my phone. Like I just didn't like the quality. So I was just like, well, I'm going to learn how to sew. I'm like, because if people are going to buy it from me, like I want it to be good quality. So then I had my sister-in-law's mom teach, like I would just sit with her and she like taught me how to sew. Like we would just get together like every night. And she would teach me how to sew, and she learned her from her mother, who was a seamstress in Mexico. And then so it all started with like the "Have you seen my like bandana?" And then obviously working in like the animal industry for so long, like one thing that I always noticed was that like representation for like the Latino community just wasn't very like present. And the majority of the population that we serve is the Latino community. And I think it was at one of your events, I met a panaderia, and when I saw that he had like Mexican inspired like dog cookies, like it just made me so happy to see like representation. And I was like, oh my God, like you have no idea like what that meant to me, like on a deeper level of like, don't drop it, of like identity, so not, oh my God, the dogs are trying to play like right next to, right next to this. So it meant a lot to me. So I was like, I want to bring, hey, Mills, a part of like my culture into the industry. So then I was like, okay, well, let me like gambaya, which is the fabric that the bandanas are made. It's a Mexican, textile. It's hey baby, and I was like, let me make these into bandanas. I'm like, they're super colorful. I know you're gonna go play with it. I was like, I want to make these into, like pet bandanas, and it brings like culture into your dog's wardrobe. So then I started doing that, and then I started finding like different like prints that had more, like, not even meant for animal products. These are just like artists that made prints into seamless. And like a lot of the prints that are on my cotton bandanas, that people don't know, is that they're from like Latina artists. And I use those to make like a seamless pattern, to make them into dog bandanas. So they're like small business owned from like small, like small artists that are just selling their art on Etsy, trying, to do the same thing. So like one of my things that I wanted to do is like, I want to also like support other like Latino businesses that are like Latinos, Latinas, like women owned, that are trying to be out there and like, doing the best that they can in like a world that, might not see us, as present. So slowly I started adding like more stuff from like small businesses, from like Latinos, like treats, and like the textiles and the ponchos that I have. So there's a small town in Zacatecas called Jalpa. So it's like a very small town that's not really known. And they have like artisans there. They sell the fabric. And that's where I buy the fabric from. And so that's why everything is like so small batch from what I make, is because they don't get like, they're not like a major city where they get, a lot of fabric. But to me, it was more important to support, a smaller town with like a smaller mom and pop business that's able to benefit from like an American business that's, like using, like, I don't want it to be lost that I'm using like an American textile here in the US and not have them profit from what I'm doing either here in the United States. So I also like, I'm always like transparent that like I don't cut any deals with them, because I'm already privileged enough to be able to like sell that here for an amount that they wouldn't be able to sell their fabric for there. So that's also like something really important that I feel like people should know when like they're going to Mexico, is, you're always going over there to try and get like something cheaper. But one of the reasons that their economy is the way that it is because people go over there to try and get, products for cheaper, and they're losing. Like, how is a community supposed to grow if everybody's trying to take away from them? And instead of helping them like prosper and giving them like a fair wage for what we would pay for here, you're always trying to get something cheaper from over there. So I intentionally don't do that, because I feel like whatever price they set, even if I'm buying them in a bigger bulk, like I'm still in a more like privileged like position here. So just something also for people to take note of when they're traveling to countries that are not as well off as we are.
Well, I mean, it's a thoughtful business. I mean, so you didn't just be like, I'm going to make bandanas. I mean, maybe in the beginning, but now that it has evolved into this, I mean, there is a place for this. I mean, if you go to our events where we have a lot of vendors, your booth is very unique. It looks very good. I always say to Imelda, I'm going to hire you to redo the Rue booth because if you look at the pictures that I was showing earlier, it's very nice. Like even that little like window there around the booth, like nobody's doing that. No, I've never seen that before. Everything there is very unique. There's give backs, like it's a very thoughtful business model. And even if the intent initially was to pay off some bills, I think there's space for it. It's amazing. So great job by you.
Yeah. So now that I've paid off for Miller's Prosthetic, like I'm trying to support like other organizations that I know personally, and like, hopefully as time I get to know more like organizations that I know are truly like well-hearted and like have the same values of me of like supporting communities, supporting like diversity, and trying to keep pets at home. So like Live Like Groot, like Chris, I also just did last month for women and children of abuse. So it's not just like animal, but they do partner with shelters for when women are believe domestic violence situations. So it's not just like pets. It's like I'm trying to give back to organizations that are doing like good on a more like grassroots point. That even if I'm not raising that much money for them, it's still giving exposure of me like out of like this organization is out there and like they need all of the support that they can get, even it's like 5 people that go and who is this? It's like
it matters. It definitely matters. And at this time in this place, as we record this, and the world as it is right now, like supporting people like you who are also supporting Mexico directly and indirectly, it's so effing important. It's so important. I can't emphasize that enough. So thank you so much for, number one, all of the work that you've done at Animal Care and Control. I know, I'll never forget it. I know you certainly won't forget it. But then also paying it forward, as you mature and you have those experiences, and be doing all the advocacy work for tripods, which is so important to feel supportive when you have an animal and unfortunately it has to have an amputation, and then having a group that meets up and can talk and discuss all of that is so important. And then your amazing business. So thank you, Imelda. You're an amazing rounded individual, well-rounded individual is what I'm trying to say. And thank you for being our guest. I think this might be a record 15-minute podcast. And all of it's gold. I'm not cutting anything out. But thank you so much. And I love those dogs more than anything.
No, and thank you for all. I'm not gonna cry. Thank you for all you're doing. And like honestly, like it's always been hard for me to like talk about Bella, but like for what you did for me with Bella and like stepping in, and like unfortunately she couldn't make it to her quinceañera, but like just being somebody that I could be like, am I doing, like, is this the right thing? Or, like during her cancer diagnosis. And even while I was working at CACC, like when I would get a cancer dog, in a home, and I was trying to keep them in their home, and you like never said no. And you always connected me with like an owner or like a different rescue. Like I still remember Prince Muttley with One Tail at a Time, like him. So like it's organizations like yours and like all the like One Tail at a Time and Players for Pits, like everybody that helped me during my time at Animal Control to keep my sanity during there of like I need to be able to help these animals that I'm bringing into Animal Care and Control. Like I don't think I would have been able to stay sane as long as I did there, or like stay working that job if it wasn't for like the organizations like yours and the other rescues, that were willing to like help me out and help the animals that I was bringing in. So, and like the wildlife organizations that go in and help.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
that's truly like one of the like hardest part of Animal Control is like not only the dogs but the wildlife animals. Like if it wasn't for you guys, like that job would be so like just like so depleting. So I truly like for all the organizations that are hearing, like, your impact is just like way beyond, the animal. It's like from the root of where it starts. So, like, truly, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and the key is having somebody receptive to listen, which was hard in that place. So having you like be able to like listen to us, and I think it worked both ways. Like we would listen to you, but you would listen to us too. Like having somebody to talk to even and see a friendly face. I mean, the place was not always the most friendly to walk into. In fact, it's really hard to walk in and out of there.
Yeah.
I remember bringing people in for the first time and they would cry just looking in the room. Like they didn't even go into the pavilions, it's so having somebody like you, like a face there, just that you knew was going to be receptive to goodness and like listening. So thank you, Imelda. You've been an amazing guest. I appreciate you so much. Bye, Miller. Bye, Jerry. Oh, Miller. Oh my God, he's the best.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye. Imelda, everybody. Again, check out this amazing business. You can shop her on Etsy too. So here's the Etsy address. When you type that in, you'll see the shop. I just did it before we started to make sure it was all good and right. Just really amazing handcrafted. She just posted, I can't remember the bandana she posted recently, but it had ruffles on it. Oh, still it had ruffles on it. I was like, this is amazing. She's doing incredible work and obviously, gives back to various nonprofit organizations, not just animal related, as she said. But thank you. She's a great guest. Even getting some insight on animal care and control. Again, we're not, over here gossiping. That's real life stuff. Supporting sponsors. Thank you to our supporting sponsors. On the corner of Montrose and Troy in Chicago's Irving Park neighborhood, you'll find a hidden gem known as Templestowe Pub. They have a great selection of local draft beers, and the Malort is always flowing. Oh no. Join us for a charity bingo event or a tap takeover with a local brewery. Don't want to leave your dog at home? All good, bring them along. Whether you're throwing darts or playing a banger on the jukebox, you're guaranteed to have an awesome time. So head on over to 3135 West Montrose and look for the old style sign. The Canine PT is Chicago's highest rated dog physical therapy clinic, and they're dedicated to enhancing the lives of your four-legged companions as they age or when recovering from an injury. Give the gift of pain relief to your furry friends. They also offer a discount for rescue dogs. For more information, visit thecaninept.com. Intuitive animal behavior dog training, positive reinforcement, force-free, and fear-free training solutions for every dog. Jenna offers individualized training, behavioral boarding, shelter support, and positive reinforcement board and train services. Creating an environment that is happy and healthy for your pets is so important. For more information, go to intuitiveanimalbehavior.com. Thank you so much to all our sponsors. Thank you, supporting sponsors and presenting sponsors. I love you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.